Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. And today we're talking about how to set up a farm so you can go out of town occasionally, spotting bugs in your lettuce before customers do, and we have another round of should I buy this farm? So let's do it. All right, welcome in Thursdayers. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone enjoyed that awesome chat with the great John D. Liu yesterday as well. Could talk to that guy for hours. If you missed it, go back and have a listen. Large-scale ecological restoration is something I think almost anyone can get behind because it's as much about protecting our own health as it is about protecting the health of the planet. It does both, which is awesome. The carbon you and I are all made from came from plants turning CO2 into carbohydrates, and then we ate it, or the animal we ate it. And in that way, human health and ecological health are inseparable. So these kinds of conversations are important, and we should all get pretty psyched about maybe doing a little large-scale ecological restoration in this country. Anyway, the heat has broken. I almost didn't know what to do with myself yesterday. Not just, spending the whole day stressing about my plants, feeling, not sweaty outside. It was weird. It was a very weird feeling. So I planted some Napa cabbage and started some seeds, as you do. Anyway, it is Thursday, and as is tradition, this is the day we try to catch up on Patreon questions. Colin from @PocketFarmNagano wrote, quote, "Hi, Jesse. Thanks for all you do with the podcast. I always get something useful from it. Catching up on a week's worth of daily shows while cutting grass has become a routine for me. Question for you. What should you do when you have to take a week or two off in the middle of the growing season and you have no staff to pick up the slack? I prefer to take time off in the winter, but sometimes life happens. Weddings, graduations, death/illness in the family, etc., and you have to go out of time at an inconvenient time. If given the time, how do you plan ahead for this? If it's sudden and there's no planning to be done, how do you recover when you get back? I'd love to hear your insights and or experiences with this. Thanks," end quote. All right, I love this. This is a great question, and there are actually a few different ways to look at it. First, one of the challenges with farm businesses is that we don't, as farmers, always run farms like normal businesses would run their operations, which is to say we are often working in the business and not on the business, to quote a common business axiom. Meaning, when we envision our farms or when we start working on our farms, we often place ourselves in the fields and not in any sort of managerial role where, at least for a short time, the business could run itself if we were simply managing it, because we could do that more or less from anywhere. So this does mean building a staff into the business plan, so these sorts of absences are a little more manageable, but perhaps there's also potential for some amount of automation depending on the operation itself. Like this winter, you could set up an irrigation and greenhouse watering system on a timer where maybe you just need someone stop by occasionally and make sure the water is on. Maybe that's like every day or every other day, or maybe it is staff. Maybe you spend the next year reserving some capital so that you can cover an employee. One thing I learned, in fact, way too late in my farm business journey is that you really should have 4 to 6 months of an employee's salary in reserve before hiring an employee, so you are not stressing about covering their wages or missing their payments. But more on things to do before getting employees another time, perhaps. Then over the spring, you train the staff how to operate without you on the farm so that in an emergency or in the case of a wedding, etc., you leaving will not be a huge challenge to them because, nothing really changes. Of course, we also on our farm have neighbors who in a pinch can at least water stuff or turn irrigation on and off. That is not super hard to train somebody, any able-bodied person whom you trust to do. When we go out of town, we will hire a house sitter and or we'll, ask our neighbors to pitch in. Then later we'll return the favor for them. So oftentimes we're watching our neighbors' properties and then later on they're watching ours. Of course, there may be some nuanced stuff like planting or cultivating or whatever that does not get done in that time, but there's always going to be sacrifice if you don't have employees, and sometimes sacrifice when you do have employees, because I've heard stories of, growers going out of town and then coming back and finding either nothing done or everything done wrong, or sometimes just, things like trucks get wrecked into trees, stuff like that. Family, friends, neighbors, sometimes it's as simple as doing little favors throughout the year in case you need a favor in return later. Reciprocity, right? Now, in a situation where you have none of that help, or maybe just some of it, and you have to leave but return to a mess, the easiest way to manage that is to get a list of importance together. If you don't take the time to do a list, you may end up, like sort of squirrel farming, just wandering around and doing whatever project you see in front of you that needs doing. Lists help you to stay efficient and prioritized and focused, and you can manage the triage element by simply placing the things you need to survive at the top of the list, and then you kind of go down the list and the things that maybe you have a little bit more time to get to. In a hospital, for instance, they would treat the most severe patients first, so you would start there, treat the most severe situations first, like perhaps saving a bed of lettuce that is almost mature, but getting swallowed by weeds, and then move on to stuff that's maybe a less severe issue, like perhaps your brassicas that are slowly getting some weeds in them, but you have a little bit of time because they're not quite in the maturation stage or whatever. It's possible you lose some stuff, and that will have to go on the list too, or perhaps you have to call in some backup friends and family to help dig you out. There is no one right way to go about it, and needing to leave is definitely something that happens. It will happen. On that point, because it is something that is almost guaranteed to happen, it is good to build into your plan, into your business plan, into your farm plans. If for no other reason, then you may need to see a beach or a hiking trail in the middle of the season to reset. Nothing wrong with that, but it does take a little planning to do well. So you didn't leave a stressful situation to come back to an even more stressful situation. That's not good rest. Anyway, I hope something in there was helpful. Would love to hear your all's thoughts on this. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, bugs in the lettuce. BRB.
This trellis is what happens when you go away for 3 weeks and a storm with a strong wind comes and blows it all down. Plus, the design maybe was a bit fragile.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. Is this show bringing you $2 a month worth of value? 5? I know how you can help. You can go over to patreon.com/no-till-growers and sign up. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to those Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Joe Naaman Sessions, who writes urgently, quote, "Bugs in my lettuce. I'm having huge issues on my ecological farm with bugs in my lettuce. We had major aphid issues, but no one ever sees those. As follows from aphids are ladybugs. I have so many ladybugs, I should probably figure out a capture system and sell them. I have a chef that has said they have had bugs and spiders crawling out of the lettuce when they open it, and even in patrons' dishes that they have had to subsequently refund. How do you get a handle on bugs in your lettuce? I grow on landscape fabric, and otherwise my lettuce is pristine, but no one likes seeing a sticky lady beetle pupa or larva on their lettuce. These bugs are surviving a double dunk, washing machine, spin dry, and time in the walk-in. I got my jacuzzi blower, but need to get a stock tank to finish a bubbler. Also, this is the only chef who has complained of it and makes up about 30% of my lettuce sales. Any help to save a large account, 20 pounds a week plus micros, would be greatly appreciated," end quote. All right, Joe, great question here. And for the listeners, I did already answer this a little bit over at the Patreon page, but I will go into more detail for it now. I think a lot of organic ecological growers who bump up their lettuce or greens production have run into this sort of issue. We once gave a slug to a restaurant, for instance, and luckily they caught it before they served it to a customer, but we were at the time trying to boost our lettuce sales, so we were spread thin, inexperienced, and rushing it. So that slug snuck through, albeit slowly, and that was a big wake-up call for us. That could have lost that account. Customers could have been really mad at them, could have lost them some customers. So after that, we had to become more vigilant about our lettuce production from harvest to packing. And so, short of getting some sort of machine to detect bugs or other foreign objects in the lettuce, which is a thing that very few of us can likely afford, we have to make sure every step is carried out thoughtfully to reduce risk and still simultaneously grow profitably, but also ecologically and organically, which is kind of a buggy way of growing food. First, for us, it starts at harvest during the buggier times of year, especially usually in the wetter part of the spring or early fall. We will slowly harvest the lettuce and slightly inspect it as it falls to the bin. If I see a spider or ladybug or whatever fall into the bin as I'm harvesting, I will stop and I will find it and I'll pull it out of there for fear of it making it to a customer. Yes, this is kind of time consuming, but I do find it's faster and more effective in the long run rather than picking through the lettuce post-harvest, even like more so than we do while we're harvesting at the wash station. Anyway, I harvest slowly into the bins, inspecting the lettuce as I go. Then we use 2 sinks to wash. One is the initial rinse, where we will weigh the lettuce beneath the water using a bulb crate, just like when you get flower bulbs in, and use a pool strainer on a small handle to get the bugs floating on the surface. Then carefully transfer that lettuce to the tank and do that again. Having good lighting also will come in handy on the wash pack station, just as an additional important detail there. Then we slowly transfer the lettuce to a drying tub where we can have our 4th quick inspection. Then from there, it goes to the spinner, a 5th detection opportunity as we fill the spinner container. And then after that, it goes to a bin, to await packing, and that becomes kind of the 6th potential detection opportunity. While we're packing, we carefully as we can look for bugs. We kind of go somewhat slowly packing the bags, or sticks or mulch pieces. All that stuff is equally likely on our farm. Then lastly, we can look at the bags to make sure that none snuck through, at least none that we can see. Now, I'm not saying this is foolproof, but we have not had a complaint in years by being diligent about checking for bugs through every step of the process. If it's something like aphids that are small, which are hard to catch when you're harvesting, we kind of do the same thing. We, kind of shake them off at harvest. We will even do a 3rd dunk in the wash station to make sure we get them all off. But for the most part, the bugs that we are dealing with are beneficials, and they're doing things like eating the aphids, or just a worm who has decided to take a little stroll through the lettuce, or often spiders. We get lots of spiders. Occasionally, we will get small slugs, but we find the submergence under the water will basically drown them, and then they fall off to the bottom of the tank. Now, we don't use a bubbler anymore because although it may knock the bugs off, it can also kind of knock them back onto the lettuce mix. And not to mention, it's just really loud and kind of another step along the way to add. So we just use a little hand dunking motion that submerges the lettuce, shakes it off. Then we move it to the next water tank. But a bubbler used lightly in the beginning could help detach the bugs. Just depends on what the bug is. Also, if you want another inspection point, some people use a rack with fans above it to try and dry the lettuce slightly, a little bit more after the spinning cycle, which could have the additional benefit of, being another option for inspection. Anyway, lettuce producers, I'd love to hear what you all do to keep the bugs on the farm and not in the lettuce bags. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we play Should I Buy This Farm? I feel like I need like an announcer voice for that. Should I buy this farm? I'll keep working on it. Be right back.
Hello, Internet people. Corvid Ravenscraft Farms, Sutherland, Oregon, Zone 8B/9A. Getting ready to top all this Intellium red garlic and music. First year at market. Looking forward to seeing how we're doing. Have a great day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. We know it's peak season, you're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free, instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access today at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, our third and final Patreon question of the day comes to us from Anthony Fulton, who writes, quote, "Hey, Farmer Jesse, been listening for a few months and really appreciate your daily podcast. It really scratches my nerd itch, and my morning drive is much more pleasant because of it. Thanks. I would like to pose a question and would love your insight. I have the opportunity to purchase an old garden center in a good retail location in a smaller town in southern Michigan. It has been run successfully for 50 years, but the owner is ready to retire and would like to sell the 2-acre property with the business and multiple buildings in town. My question is this: if given the opportunity to start from scratch with a 6,000 square foot heated greenhouse, a retail 1,000 square foot front, 20 parking spots, 2 acres, etc., what would you do with it? Is there a way to enlist services or add products that would appeal to market farmers as well as backyard gardeners? Would it be smart to convert it to an ecological organic focus? Is the general market ready for that, or will I lose all of my money? Thank you, end quote. All right, so I love these sort of should I buy this farm questions, and I think Patreon members should feel free to put them in the show thread of whatever month you find your farm in. It took me a little longer to get to this one than I would have liked, so maybe for these I will try to move them up the list a bit because it's probably more pressing than other concerns, but also, Patreon members, remember, you can always add an alarm emoji if it's super pressing, so I know that it's that you need a quick answer, because it also may not be. Anyway, the first thing I would do with this scenario is market research, and that would be market research for the type of business you are envisioning. Now, this could be a lot of things. You could put like a small restaurant in it. There's one in Lexington that is really, really amazing. It's just like a greenhouse that has a small restaurant in the back. You could do something like that, and it would be, with 20 parking spots, it's maybe not quite enough, but it could be a cool opportunity. But Anthony did provide more details about what the business would look like. They said plant starts, natives, ecological alternatives to herbicides and pesticides, etc. The kind of place that most people listening to this would probably likely shop. Anyway, as you are writing out the business plan, it's important to start looking at the market for those things in that area, or online if you also plan to ship, if even just locally. Just like we talked about on the recent episode about market research, you want to identify your outlets. So for you, that might be identifying like any in-store retail places that may be around for selling plants, local plant delivery, possibly also installation, from online orders and that sort of stuff. What exists in that area already, and maybe shipping online orders. Look at each one of those, sort of like market outlets, and determine what the level of competition is in that area. I'm going to assume with an established business like this that the local competition is going to be pretty low because there's clearly demand enough to keep it in business for 50 years. That bodes well for you, though, of course, what they're going to sell it for is not what they paid for it. So their overhead will be different than yours going forward, meaning even with the same amount of business, it may not be financially feasible. So you really do have to put pen to paper on this one. Also, it would be important to look and see what exactly they were doing and get any sort of idea of what their books looked like. That will likewise make it easier to sell as an idea to a bank for a loan, showing that the market is already established and like what exactly the numbers look like. For me, I would definitely have a long chat with the owner about the viability of the business and try to get an understanding of what it looks like, how it's changed over the years. If it's still in business, I'm not sure if this is realistic for you, but it might not hurt to even see if you can pull some shifts over there to start getting a feel for their operation, if it's something you would even enjoy. I'm not sure your level of experience with plant propagation, but having that experience might also help to get the sale over the line with a bank. Now, I will say that nurseries can be quite profitable when done well if you keep it reliable, consistent, accessible, with good customer service. Those sorts of nursery businesses can do great. I'm also going to imagine, however, that the price tag of this thing is hefty and that you will not only need a healthy down payment for this thing in a big loan, but potentially also partners. You may have to bring in other people to help get this thing off the ground. In fact, it may be worth getting all the requisite details I just explored here and then putting out some feelers through the farmers markets for potential partners who might want to go in on it with you, who may see some value there. Maybe even just having a plant nursery that could propagate their plant starts would be helpful. Really crunch your numbers. Try to think of every possible cost you could incur, and then add more to it for all the stuff that you're not thinking of. It's going to be expensive. But to answer your overall question, yes, it could be very cool. And being right there in the city with a built-in market, it is clearly a great opportunity. But your success will depend not on the opportunity itself, but on your preparation. So business plan the absolute fire out of this one if it's something you think you truly want to do, possibly for the next 50 years. All right, let me know what you all think about this opportunity. Otherwise, ta-ta for now, Thursday. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to kick in a few bucks in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Lots of people do that, and I love you for it. It is so amazing. That really does help keep this thing going. So we really do appreciate it when you get it from us. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of August, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Cecilia, Heather Borner, and Earl. Good. All good novelistic names. All right, so as you will remember, our young couple who inherited a random piece of land have just discovered that there are 3 other recipients of the same deal, the same letter. One was like a livestock farmer, a younger sort of enthusiastic livestock farmer. One was a flower farmer. And there was another that was like a vegetable farming couple. The weird thing about these properties, though, is not just that they're sort of connected with like this central pavilion, but it's also that something that each of them would need to start their own, farm is on another property. For instance, the livestock farmer has the largest acreage, but no infrastructure at all. The barn, as you will remember, is on the farm of our young couple. The slightly older couple with the market gardening experience has the best land for growing food and 3 nice high tunnels to boot, but the propagation house they could use is on the flower farmer's land with the wash pack station. All the infrastructure is close by, of course, and it's accessible for everyone, but clearly within the land of another recipient of the letter. Then, they all kind of get together, they shake hands and scratch their heads for a few minutes about this ridiculous situation that they've all found themselves in. Then the lawyer that's there kind of calls them all over to talk about like what's the deal here and also explain our, young couple's role in all this. But that is for tomorrow on This Land Is Our Land Farm. I don't like that as much as What the What Farm. Still think What the What Farm has some legs. All right. Thanks for watching and/or listening. We'll see you tomorrow.